Nightcrawler would have been the best media satire of 1989 or 1990, but we're 25 years down the line here. Maybe it would have been better set back then, a period piece from the adolescent phase of America's tabloid TV maturation, the age of OJ and the Menendez brothers, an Inside Edition and a current affair. I would wholly endorse a Wolf of Wall Street type romp through that now charmingly quaint hellscape. But Nightcrawler is set in the here and now and seems eager to show us the horrors of things we, frankly, already really know about. A single episode of House of Cards serves up a more cynical dishing than this film. Hell, a Wikipedia article on Joseph Pulitzer or Randolph Hearst would give you a worse case of the creeps. I don't mean to bash unnecessarily, it's a good film. Well made, beautiful, minimalist photography of that alien landscape called the Southland. Jake Gyllenhaal is great, creepy as fuck, and the film's anchor. As a character study, I suppose the movie works best, showing us a dude without compass or bearing, scraping away in a landscape of shabby opportunism. He's pure hunger attached to a glowing pair of eyeballs, wandering this way and that in search of food. When he speaks, it's with the rote measure of a thing which has learned human language from motivational speeches, but we hear no heartbeat under the words, only the hunger. Gyllenhaal's character is Lou Bloom, a thief who shoulders his way into a gig as a stringer, racing around LA collecting video of the night's carnage to sell to local news. He approaches a professional stringer, is rebuffed, becomes the competition, and is eventually courted by his superior. In the never-ending quest for better footage, we, of course, are unsurprised to find Bloom bending, breaking, and rewriting the rules to suit his needs. He delivers his goods every night to a local TV station that fillets, lightly sautés, and serves up the carnage for their viewers' breakfast. All of this is pretty good material. As a native son of Southern California, I know this background well. The car chases, the local TV stations, the anchor persons like a ticking metronome of veiled exploitation. They all have plastic hair and plastic faces and seem immoderately tranquil as they shovel this garbage in your face. But the script just doesn't go anywhere. Bloom starts crazy, gets crazier, and orchestrates an ending we sort of expected one way or another. The script doesn't have an interesting idea about where to go with its material. It doesn't surprise. Bloom is of a heritage stretching back through Wayne Gale from Natural Born Killers, Faye Dunaway's vicious exec in 1976's Network, and all the way back to Ace in the Hole from 1951. Now this is a Billy Wilder classic with more teeth and venom than you can shake a stick at. And still, somehow, it seems more modern than Nightcrawler. Didn't the filmmakers see these other films? Didn't they track down their own heritage before embarking on this film? Why not make the movie just about stringers in general? Follow them around. Forget the manipulative drama. Or why don't we see more people watching the carnage Bloom collects? And what the hell does that sidekick have to do with anything anyway? So, gentlemen, that's my short and sweet opinion on Nightcrawler.
It's interesting because it seems like there's a lot that you enjoyed about this movie.
I like the surface of it is very nice.
It's
like a
really
nice,
good, yeah.
It's like a nice little world. I like the diners and, I like that LA just looks like an alien colony. Just, it's just concrete and telephone poles,
right.
You're
like, saying what's it? I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to get to the gist of this because I like this movie. But what you're saying is interesting because I think what you're saying is less plot would have been more interesting and just more of a study on what these people are doing.
I just think we already know about this world. We know news people shovel garbage in our faces. Like, it's an interesting little world to hang out inside of in this movie, but nothing happens in the movie. He just manipulates the news and that's it. The movie's over,
Right.
So there's nothing, driving around with this guy in the middle of the night around LA looks nice. It reminds me of Drive with Ryan Gosling, like that nice minimalist landscape and color.
Right. It has a Refn feel. It also has a Fincher feel to it too.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you brought up House of Cards because, House of Cards has a huge Fincher feel, obviously, because he works on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to get into other media movies and stuff like that. But as far as this one goes, I just feel like it doesn't have any teeth. Like, are you are you really, do you expect me to be surprised when this character does any of the things he does? I know that character. I've seen that character 100 times before, you know, and he's a great performer. I think it's a great
It is a
performance.
great performance.
Yeah, and you know his I totally get into him, you know, but it just you know, he doesn't surprise me. Nothing happens in the movie that surprises me at all, you know.
Yeah, it's just it's really interesting that you said that, and I didn't think of it that way, Billy. And because I mean, I dug this. I was kind of surprised because it's, with all these great performances and a great look at the film, it's still a little bit kind of like under the radar, a little bit. I mean, not hugely, but it's still kind of it's not one of your bigger movies this year.
Yeah, it did very well in like I saw it in the theaters when it actually came out.
Wow.
It was one of the only good movies in the theaters, you know. I think toward the end of the summer. It's safe to go back into the movie theaters without having a skyscraper bashed over your head by the Incredible Hulk, you know. Yeah, I mean I enjoy it. It's nice and it's a nice little world to go into, but people were just saying really good things about it, and I just think it's kind of evidence people really latch onto it because there's so much other garbage out there that you just don't want to see in the movie theater, that when something even moderately good comes along, I think people overreact, you know?
Wow, that's interesting. We're going to be talking journalism, media, and films. We have some really great stuff. We're doing Nightcrawler. Next week, we're going to be talking about Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers and David Fincher's Zodiac. Dave Pace linely shows up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to get to him in just a few minutes. Let's get Jeff in here and get his thoughts on his screening of Nightcrawler, Jeff.
So the thing about the portrayal of the media and sort of hammering it, something that we know already about the media over and over. I don't think with this and with Zodiac that we'll be talking about next week, I don't think that the media part of it is really as big of a central concern as it might seem if you were like looking at a summary of the film.
Well, without it though, it would make sense because he's capturing these horrific events on video for the media, Jeff. So
I mean, I'm not saying that it's unnecessary. I'm just saying that it's not as about that as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
To me, it is more about that character of Lou Bloom and what he represents. Like to me, he was like, he what was I thinking of this? He was like Scarlett Johansson in Under the Skin, where he was like, as Billy was saying, like kind of like learning what human beings actually do, like how to behave like a human being. And he was also like a composite of like all of the ambition, like American ambition,
right?
Like
right.
There is kind of like a science fiction.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like he's a robot that's been sent here to study us, and he's slowly becoming self-aware.
Right.
Only he's like studying all the wrong things.
He's learning with each crime scene that he gets to.
Yeah. And Wikipedia.
And Wikipedia.
Yeah. Wikipedia helps him too.
He sort of doesn't have that like when people have real human, like empathetic interactions with people, there's that sort of filter, that where you don't see everything that's going on, but if you don't have that connection with people, you can sort of like take everything in, and you act more like a computer basically, and that seems to be how he's operating.
Like a robot.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, this is, I mean, Bill, you mentioned, in Alien World a little bit, the landscape of Southland and his behavior is definitely a bit alien. You throw this, this sci-fi way of thinking here. I mean, it's, it becomes a little more interesting if you think about it.
He's like the anti-brother from another planet.
Dave, you assigned Nightcrawler to all of us. We're talking about it here. Let's get you in here. Your thoughts on Jake Gyllenhaal and Dan Gilroy's interesting 2014 film.
Well, I mean, I think sure everybody knows, you know, if everybody is your, your circle of friends, Billy, or my circle of friends, perhaps, or like we all we all know that the media isn't like that, or the media is like that rather, but yet who are all these audiences out there watching this stuff every day, and not really thinking too much about what's going into how the sausage gets made. And I think that this is, you or I, who, I mean, obviously, I credit everybody on this show with, being a pretty sophisticated consumer of this sort of thing. Sure. Yeah, of course. We're not really, are we surprised that there are characters like this, all over media? No. Are we surprised to learn that, you got these little bottom feeding shitheads like this running around all over the place? No, of course it's not surprising to us, but I don't really think that, I don't really think we're the people that this movie is necessarily for or out to satisfy. I mean, it's satisfying in the sense that it's preaching to the choir, I guess, but the people who really need to see this movie are the people who don't know that.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting point, Billy. I think what he's saying is that if guys like you and Dave and Jeff and me and all other people that we know and associate with who are aware, this movie is somewhat simplistic in what it's saying. It's things that we're already we've already thought of, but there are people who are unaware who might see something like this, and it might change their way of thinking about the media.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
it's always important. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's so.
I mean, in its way, it's like movies and books and music and everything. It's retelling the same stories over and over again for a new age, and I'm totally behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's important. I mean, at the very least, that's why myths survive as long as they do. They keep coming back for more because they're still relevant. You know, so I mean, it's for me the heritage of that tradition is awesome, and
so it's good. And it's good to revisit.
I always, especially as I just think like in this day and age, there's even more going on about the narcissism of human beings who are obsessed with this carnage on TV and everything. And it's like, when this movie, unfortunately, I watched right after watching Natural Born Killers, which is like a rabid lion tearing loose through your living room, and so maybe just by comparison it doesn't seem to have as much bite as that other one,
right?
But
how you watch these movies sometimes.
It's true, but the I guess I just hoped for, and when I watch it, I'm always like hoping for more. I want something more. I want that character to sink his teeth into some heinous slice of life that just goes beyond what the movie does. And I it's not fair, I don't know what I want it to do, but I just want more from it.
I hear you. And this to you falls short of that. There's there's something you wanted to take a bite of here, and it wasn't tasty.
Yeah. I mean, other than Gyllenhaal's character, I just love watching that guy walk around like the alien robot. Like, to me, that is the best part of the movie. Yeah. It's just like,
I kind of think that is the movie.
I think you're right. I think that's what he wanted it to be about.
I really kind of think that this is about one very particular type of person, and it's the type of person that is composed of very little more than sloganeering and self-help books and that sort of corporate training nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And
but he wears this with such confidence, though, which is which makes.
Have you walked the halls of a major corporation in recent years? Because there's tons of guys like him, exactly like him, walking them halls with all kinds of confidence.
Yeah, it's
right. So I mean, there's something interesting in him just being who he is and seeing that person sort of laid bare on the screen, because what an awful creature this is, and yet we're surrounded by these creatures every day.
Well, it's even more. I mean, I like your take on that, and I definitely felt that was, that part of it was probably the best part of the movie and could have been exaggerated even more. But he's this nobody from nowhere. He's stealing scrap metal at the beginning of the movie, and he's
The
not
hustler,
learning.
right? He's a straight up hustler.
Yeah, exactly. He's an empty vessel. He's in production they had Gyllenhaal, like the director and Gyllenhaal were talking a lot about the character as a coyote.
Right.
He's this coyote that's sort of scampering around the fringes of society, darting left and right, wondering if he can come in for a scrap here and there, And the great thing about what you're saying, Dave, is that of everything he takes away from human society, it's this psychotic corporate culture. That's the thing that he chooses to mimic. Not he's not reading
Well, he sees who's
philosophy
living fat. He sees who's living fat on the land.
Right. Exactly.
Like he looks right into it and says, "Yep, I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn the language of the people who are living fat on the land right now."
It's
great strategy.
Go ahead.
And that's what the sidekick is looking at, because he's like, Lou Bloom has this like
that poor bastard.
The sidekick. That guy's role, like he's been nominated. He's been nominated for awards for that role, that dude, and we're just calling him the sidekick.
Well, I'm like, I don't know, man. Movie plot machinations bother the shit out of me sometimes. I'm like, as soon as I saw that character walk on screen, I'm like, that fucker's dead. Like,
right.
they like telegraph it in advance. Like, this guy, whatever's going to happen to this guy in this movie is not going to be.
And that
this poor sidekick is in for
right.
it.
And that does get annoying, Billy, to know because we've talked about this many times on the show where it's just frigging annoying to know where something's going. It's just just really becomes just god awful to sit through some. I'm at the point in my life where I don't even want to waste my time sometimes. With films that I just know where the fuck they're going. It becomes very frustrating.
Yeah. I do think Dave and Jeff, I really like your perspective on the characters being like the whole point of the movie is this dude who is learning the worst traits of our culture, and it's like it's approaching the idea of media from a different angle, which is that's sort of the people we admire. Like, that's what we're training ourselves to become by watching all this stuff and being obsessed with it. Like, we're sort of training ourselves to be that guy too.
Yeah.
So it addresses the idea of like a mutual relationship between audience and producer of spectacle, and we're all in it together.
Yeah, and it's also it might not even be intentional, but satirizing the impulse for people to like be the first person to deliver news. Like, like if someone dies, you're like racing to be the first person on the message board to be like, oh, can you believe that this person's dead?
What did we just have? We just had something this past week. And while it was happening, there was a shooting somewhere. Where was this? I can't remember. The world's fucked. Everything's fucked. Every day a train explodes, a building collapses, and 12 people get shot in a cafeteria. But this person, the news found out about it because a person was tweeting from inside the thing while it was happening. And I was like, my God, man. Like, the cops don't even know about this. Like, someone's like going through this. They're not even standing around helping people or anything. They immediately go to their phone and start tweeting about it.
Is there this is kind of a joke question, but also a little bit of a serious question. Is there an @911 Twitter handle that goes to 911?
That's a very good question. I don't have an answer to that. Tom?
I don't know about that, but that's just insane. What you're saying is completely insane too, because I think that this is definitely going to become more common practice, and that's when there is something awful going on, that the phones are going to be whipped out and people just become Lewis Bloom.
I can't tell you how often I'm standing around with someone and they're doing like a Facebook, they're taking a picture to send us, and I'm like, life still happens if it's not on Facebook.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know it happens even if it's not on Twitter or Instagram or anything.
And
right?
yeah, and Jeff, you're right too. With the when a celebrity dies, it is a race to see who can, put it on their Facebook wall first. You know?
Oh yeah, can we give a quick shout out to Leonard Nimoy, please?
Sure, Billy. Absolutely.
I just Spock, man. Is anyone with me on this?
Yeah, I totally appreciate his contributions to the science fiction world. His role as Spock in Star Trek. But mostly, what I'm really proud of about Leonard Nimoy, Billy, is that he directed Three Men and a Baby.
Did he really?
Yes. And
my God.
That contribution to the film world alone.
I'm assuming this is your deep 7-layer dip of irony speaking.
Of course, but yeah, definitely. It's important to remember someone like Leonard Nimoy. His, Star Trek changed television in so many ways, Billy. I mean, in so many ways. They're willing. The fact that they were daring enough to take on certain social situations on their show, I think led the way to things like All in the Family and eventually Good Times and so on and so forth. I think that show is really a starting point.
Here.
For all that.
And Spock was awesome. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. That's all you gotta say on that. Definitely. Jeff, any more thoughts on Nightcrawler or anything else here?
I really feel like Bill Paxton was overselling it with the bras. You got to get yourself a new camera, brah.
Yeah. I was actually marching around saying brah for about a half hour after that, just to everything. I gotta wash some dishes, brah.
And he just doesn't pop up enough anymore, Bill Paxton.
He's awesome.
Always
Anytime you see Bill Paxton,
Always.
You kind of got to give a little game over, man.
Yeah, of course. He was kind of doing stuff before Aliens, but that was the role. That was the movie that changed his entire career, and he really just became Bill Paxton. He pops up in the Terminator. I would say Aliens and Weird Science, I think, are the two big mid-'80s Bill Paxton treats where he just completely becomes who he is. And he's in that really wild vampire movie too that he in the late 80s.
After Dusk?
Yeah, Near Dark.
Near Dark.
Yeah, and Catherine Bigelow directed that movie. And this is a big, huge film in the horror world. They love this movie, Near Dark. It's actually a very stylish film, man. Have you ever seen it, Bill?
Yes, I have. Long time ago.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
A long time.
It's real. I think I own it somewhere. I probably have it laying around somewhere. But
might have done that for Horror Palace at some point.
We might have done it, or we should have done it. Nothing wrong with just covering all horror all the time, Billy.
24/7, brah.
All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap things up this week with Nightcrawler. We're going to be back next week, of course, with Natural Born Killers and Zodiac. The Cutting Room Movie Podcast is brought to you by Christiana Productions and New Media Limited. The show is edited and co-produced by Joseph Schreck and produced by Thomas Detloff and Joe Christiana. We'd also like to thank our associate producer, Jeremy Garcia of Dartboard Cinema. You can like us on Facebook at The Cutting Room Movie Podcast and follow us on Twitter at Cutting Room Podcast at TCRMP1. And you can follow me on Twitter, Thomas Detloff at TCRM Podcast. You can also check out Joe's film work at ChristianaProductions.com. Max and Adam's Bowler Hat Productions and their Mimosa Podcast show at MaxCookandTheCounselor.com. And Max's blog at MaxCookUncorked.com. Music from The Cutting Room is done by the Zillatones. Check them out at www.thezillatones.com or search for the Zillatones at ReverbNation.com. As I said before, we'll be back next week. Natural Born Killers, Zodiac, more media. Until then, we are over and we are out. Ciao.